Well, with Felix being recently axed, will there be any shocking actions from this new producer, Ben Wadey? Now we know, obviously, Bianca and Sonia are leaving, and like I just
Mm.
alluded to there 5 seconds ago, Felix is being axed. Could we see maybe Anna, Gina, Callum? Like, could we see any of those characters being axed? We're going to discuss this today. I'm your host, Piggy, joined with Ash.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those interesting things. So when a new executive producer takes hold, and anybody who's watched all the videos we've done lately will be tired of hearing this. But still, it's an important thing to stress for new viewers or people who have never been here for an executive producer change. Because ultimately, this Chris Crenshaw era has been longer than usual, but still produced a lot of really good moments that have made the show gain momentum and gain probably a decent chunk of viewership, all things considered. So some people may never have been here for a executive producer change, but when they do change, the whole point is they're reshaping the show in their image. That's the entire point of them changing. And yeah, as we said, as we did that pretty not mean spirited video, because we were quite generous to Felix and the actor, but like still we did that video where we explained that Felix, despite having potential, was never really used correctly. It's just one of those things where, as a soap boss, you typically have to make the hard cuts. Now, we've seen it lately with Coronation Street as it's undergoing its own problems. We have seen a good chunk of Coronation Street with some genuinely shocking exits, some of which weren't even in their control. Like, if I had to guess, I don't think there'll be too many of the recent era deciding that it's time to leave. Like, unlike Coronation Street, which is having its own problem with the actors, like last year being like, yeah, I'm done. See ya, guys. See ya. This show's not in a good place. But with this, if I had to shock Axings, I mean, if we've already done the like tertiary ones, we've done the like deadweight characters. For me, that's like Felix, Bernie, Callum, and then it goes up slightly like a tier where you go to like Chelsea. It would have been Zach before this last week or two. Like Howie, if you want to get rid of him. Uh, and then I'd say like Anna, perhaps. Those would probably be my like next tier up of potential risks. But in terms of characters who I could genuinely see wanting to leave after their recent time on the show, I have two real big characters that I'd argue for. Well, three, I suppose, but two are linked together. I would not be surprised if in a wild world Alfie and Kat decide to leave or get axed. Because if we take what they've done in this last time period, they've done nothing. They've done nothing. It felt like they've been consistently. It felt like Alfie and Kat were consistently gutted. Like, oh, Kat, you're Phil. Isn't that a really cool, nice relationship? Oh, you're not Phil anymore. All right, what's Kat doing now? Nothing. Okay. And then she splits with Phil and then does nothing. And even with Phil, she's like a background character in her own marriage, which is quite immense. And it continues, and then her and Alfie get back together. Oh, lovely! Kat and Alfie are back. But then you have Alfie, who what has Alfie done in the last like 3 years since he's been back?
Mention Elon Musk. That's mostly it.
But like he was brought back in a show to try and Alfie's back and him and Kat gonna get back together because they're meant to be. Then they did that cancer storyline, which was supposed to be a big deal, but because we just had Lola's cancer storyline, they didn't really want to go whole hog with it. So we just kind of got like a slightly more muted look at like prostate cancer, was it?
Yeah, prostate, yeah.
So we just got a very muted view of that. And then, like I said, since he's kind of gotten back together with Kat, he's beyond this Tommy storyline, which has still been an interesting one. And like they've still, it's not to say I think they should leave. Like they have definitely, they've worked with what they've had, but in terms of like long term impact over this last like couple of years, they've done nothing at all. And like you could understand because they're not. They've technically been on the show for like 20 years now. Like maybe they're tired of just being background characters. Like, and I think like if anybody were to be axed, and I'm sure like in an executive producer's time or two, if they really want to, they could bring them back. But like in terms of like the position they had. Well, maybe not before, because Kat's generally been a background character for years. At this point, like ever since they left to do Redwater, and Alfie Moon 2018 never really recovered from that time period. But I could definitely imagine them taking the loss and having them just leave the show. It's not something I'd like to see, but ultimately it's something that feels like it could. It feels a lot more realistic in terms of shocking axings.
Yeah, I do agree with you. The problem with Kat and Alfie is you want to rekindle the magic you had in 2003, two to three, and the problem is it's not like a TV show where you leave on a happy ending, and then it's like, oh, 20 years time, the money's drying up, we might as well do a legacy sequel. They can't really do that, and the problem with they can't really do that is this show continues on for like years, and they came back in 2010. They had Bert and Ernie. That was mainly it. They go to Redwater. They have a son that no one talks about. And Cat comes back after Big Mo scamming like people, saying that Cat has died, and then Alfie Moon 2018, Haley Slater has been meant it, and then Alfie leaves. Then Cat just gets with Kush, and then it's just it's just.
Did she get with Kira for? Was she with Kira for a little time? I don't remember.
I think Kira was with Stacey.
Yeah, but he was also with Sharon. I don't know. He slept around.
And then when Phil and Kat got together, Alfie's like that boil on your arse peeping back up like, hey, remember our times, it was good. And it's like, yeah, no, it wasn't.
Remember 2018, Alfie? Remember Christmas 2018? You remember when you said I was to blame for being sexually abused by my uncle? Yeah, no, but that didn't happen, did it? We didn't do that. We didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, there are levels as to how much you can explain away. And, like, I am glad that we haven't spent all the time talking about this, because this is the Watching Walford bingo card. It's sickening. I hate it. I hate talking about this these days. We have flogged this dead horse more than anything ever has been flogged. It's mental. But it doesn't really rectify the damage that has been done to their relationship. And even with them being back, it's been one thing I've still kind of, and I think Chris Glenshaw was shit at relationships. He was not good at writing love stories at all. He was not. He never. His forte wasn't writing love. Yeah, sure, he did Suki and Eve, but Suki and Eve had so many little obstacles that, yeah, sure, they loved each other within it, but at the end of the day, it still wasn't his finest work. A lot of characters, a lot of relationships they'd established, he got rid of to return them to the status quo, which is perfectly fine. And maybe Ben Wadey's going to play around with Kat and Alfie a lot more and kind of give them a boost and give them a more important shot in the main storylines. But Chris Glenshaw struggled to write good relationships, and for me, and it may just be a hyperbolic sense, the relationships they felt like roommates. They felt like roommates who kiss sometimes, which are all roommates, of course. But it's just is very questionable. It's very questionable is the problem.
Like,
And this left Kat and Alfie in a pretty awful place, and it meant that they didn't really get much attention or love.
I don't like. Like obviously, I'm not going to talk anymore really about Kat and Alfie. I could see them being axed, but what I will say on the relationship thing is we also done that bit to death as well. We flogged that We flogged a lot of dead horses. You know that. So I don't ask how much we made from flogging these dead horses. I don't know, but
£1.
£1. But I will say we went to Tesco's, bought the burgers in, and but I will say, like,
Don't make me hungry.
you can have a horse burger if you want. But as I was saying, yeah, he relied heavily on nostalgia for couples to get back together. Like I'm one. I don't really know how to explain this. Like when a couple is like done, it's been done twice. Is there time to do it for a thrice? Like Phil and Sharon, 1994-5, to like Sharon left and then came back, was with Dennis Brickman and then left, and then came back and was with Phil, and then 2019 happened where sexy Keanu taking off my top, showing you my nipples. It's Keanu, like and then that whole kabacle, and now they're like, oh, Phil and Sharon, let's go, and it's like, no, please. But shocked like exits for me, I wouldn't. I know it's not going to happen because she is a mainstay, but I wouldn't be surprised if Suki and Eve left. I would not be surprised.
I would.
Just because like the possibility of like, God, you can't ruin our marriage. We're gonna leave. See you in the next one.
I mean, it was that rumored story that Heather Pierce, who plays Eve, genuinely got it written into a contract saying you're not allowed to kill Eve off, which definitely didn't happen. It definitely didn't happen. But regarding how do I say this? Obviously, she is LGBTQ. She has played lesbian characters before and is a lesbian herself. Obviously, she knows that in soap and in a lot of these, in soap especially, they do have a problem with killing off the gays. And it would be a smart thing to make sure that they can't fucking do it. But is it written into the contract? Don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think anything's set in stone in soap. But no, I don't see Suki leaving. Suki is Eve. Eve, I could see leaving. To be honest, I like Eve. I like their relationship. Suki is the one who stays. At the end of the day, Eve, I hope she sticks around. I hope they get this really long-term relationship. They never split up. That'd be cool. Will it happen? Well, but Suki, to me, is a character who is ascending to that potential iconic status. She's had a lot of really big storylines this last 5 years, rather, within this decade. And that kind of makes her a pretty important character. Obviously, time will tell if she's as important a character because she was introduced as in the previous era and was questionable. Questionable. And then was established much greater in 2022, starting the Suki and Eve, and then you have Nish, then you have the Sixth. Like, her resume's looking really, really clean. And I feel like Suki, I know I said this about Martin, I feel like Suki's one of those people who has a job for life if she wants it.
You also said that about Reese, so...
I did also say that about Reese.
So, I would not be surprised if a battle falls on Suki's head then. Or a beam, because
I am the curse. I am the curse.
Yeah, he is.
I got another one. I got another one to go into.
Is it going to be Jay Brown?
I think this one could also be quite. No. I think he is kind of on the verge, but there's nothing like. It's one of those things where he has been there for like 20 years, and if you get rid of him, you're gonna it's kind of like getting rid of Martin in the same way. He has a lot of fans. He may not have all the fans, but he does have a lot of them. But he is very established and he's very tight knit with the community. Not like everybody loves him, because you'd have a group of people who absolutely despise him. Ballum stands, you cretins. But if you get rid of him, you do risk like alienating a bit of the fan base. Plus, I would like to see Jay do more. I want to see Jay find love again. I want to see Jay do things. That's it. That's my piece on Jay. It would be a shocking accent. I wouldn't lie. Would like to see him do more, you know. But in terms of like another character who I think is their genuine chance is George Knight at the end of the day. Like, because having Colin Salmon in the role, it feels too good to be true. He's a long-term TV actor. He's done it all. He's done everything. He's even been on Strictly. He's done everything. And it felt like a big like coup to get him and actually have him be on the show and head up this big, main, prominent family. And was kind of the sleeper hit of this Chris Crenshaw era, in a sense. Not entirely, you know, not fully. The Knights had a lot of stuff, not all of it good. But all the stories suggested that he was like, he wanted to go somewhere local so he could support his wife as she was having some health problems or something. So he wanted to be able to like be at home quite frequently. But it's still, for me, it feels like, I don't feel like George stays for like 5-10 years. It feels like George stays for like a solid 2 to 3 years maximum and then leaves. I don't know. It's just a feeling. I don't really have much to back it up. I suppose the angle could possibly be that they have established the Knights as a family, as a fairly important, integral family to the show, quite endemic to EastEnders. Set it up quite well. Got Elaine at the forefront. Got Linda, like, you know, the blended with both the Beals and the remaining Carters. Like, they've established them enough. I could easily see, because you have that kind of ticking time bomb in a sense where it says if George takes one more blow to the head, he could die. And it feels like that card could be played at any time. Any time that they need it, he could just die. What do you reckon about that?
I wouldn't. I feel like I know in the same sense people might get mad, but I do feel like he's the Mick Carter of this era. Like, I know I don't really like comparing people to the past, so you can't really do that. But to me, he is kind of that Mick Carter level character. I know he's not as big as Danny Dyer, because Danny Dyer was in both GTA San Andreas and GTA Vice City, which many people forget, but I don't. And Johnny Vegas was in San Andreas. But anyways,
What
he's
did Johnny Vegas do?
What?
What did Johnny Vegas do in there?
He was just he was like one of the people who did drugs with Danny Dyer in the game.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were like gonna pull up artificial like results like here. But yeah, George, he's not a Lexi character, but I don't think he'll be axed anytime soon. I think he's like here to stay a while. Don't know how long, but I'm counting my clocks. I'm taking the time. Yeah, I'm just waiting to see what happens with George. I don't think he'll be axed. If anything,
but it feels like to me it's just the fact that it's a really big like coup to have. It's a really big coup to have Colin Salmon in the role, and I think he is really good, but also there is a chance he just decides, all right, that's enough soap for me. See ya. And that. There's no real backing behind it. Those are my immediate like shocking picks, and I think those could be. Obviously, this is a big video speculating about the future that we don't know. So there's a high chance it comes out and it's nowhere near. But that's perfectly fine. We're basically football pundits just having a bash, talking about whatever's going on. It just like how just before the 40th anniversary, I released a video saying this is going to be the golden era that never was. Chris Crenshaw, you failed. And then suddenly the 40th anniversary was great, and bloody hell, I was wrong. But it's just what it is. Someone has to be the idiot. And that's Piggy. Way.
What did you say? I was checking to see if there was any news. I'll have you know.
Any remainder shockers? I mean, I suppose Anna, in a sense. I feel like Anna's been quite underused. She feels like she'd be someone who'd be happy to be there for ages, but she's not really produced at any point in time. Let's be honest, she's not. I don't think the bad actor issues are like that's what people claim is the problem. I think she's never really been given much of an opportunity. Because she did have, like, glimpses of storylines, but they were very, very tight, short, tiny moments. Whereas, you know, Gina had a relapse in and a kind of backstory about her ex-boyfriend who got her hooked on drugs but also died. Like, Anna's had very small bits, and it's basically stand on this step and don't fall. Okay, that's it. Oh, this really important spiking storyline. Is that going to be something really a big deal? Nah, it's going to have like a TikTok mini series and like 2 episodes dedicated to it. Oh, great! I'm glad you believe in me, guys. oh, the abortion. Yeah, but that's about 1 episode. So yeah, like. Yeah, it's kind of a. That's who. So if I just reiterate my general list of people who I think are on the chopping block, in terms of like tiering as well, it is the bottom tier was Felix, Bernie, as another name, Callum. Those are like my immediate 3 who I think go. Johnny's fine. Then in that like middling tier, you have like Chelsea. I was gonna say Zach before this like last week or 2. Then you have like Howie and some of the extra like background characters. I would have put Harvey there as well, but they seem to want to use Harvey now, and it's kind of sink or swim. And then like the most shocking to me is like George, Kat and Alfie. Anyone else?
I think you've nailed that on the head perfectly. And without further ado, I now leave the question to you viewers. Who do you think will be a shocking act from the show? Let us know down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.